your name? What is your name? He replied, my name is Legion, for we are many. And he begged him earnestly not to send them out of the country. Now a great herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside, and they begged him, saying, send us to the pigs. Let us enter them. So he gave them permission, and the unclean spirits came out and entered the pigs. And the herd, numbering about 2,000, rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned in the sea. Now I'm going to stop for a second. We'll pick back up a little bit later. There's a lot going on here. What's happening here? Let's break it apart piece by piece. Jesus is stepping out of the boat. They just come across. We just went through that. Remember, sea, calm, everything. They're just stepping out. And when Jesus stepped out of the boat, immediately, let me go backwards and say that I believe this did happen after that. We don't really know. This could have been just telling a story about, it happened 2 weeks later. I believe it happened right after. Because I believe that the disciples were getting a really big taught lesson here, that not only am I the Son of God over the weather, but I am the Son of God over the enemy. So he steps out. He stepped out onto the Gerasenes, and like he said, the Gerasenes was more of a Gentile area. That's the reason why there were Jews. It was unclean animal. Pigs were very unclean animals, so there would have been no pigs on the hillside. That was a Gentile area. And this man lived among the tombs. Now imagine that. He had an unclean spirit, and he lived among the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain, for he had often been bound with shackles and chains, but he wrenched the chains apart, and he broke the shackles in pieces, and no one had the strength to subdue this guy. This dude is like the epitome. He's breaking chains. People had no idea what to do because Jesus hadn't died yet. They didn't have the authority that you have in Christ Jesus. Jesus was doing something that they could not do at the time. All they knew to do with this dude is to put him out into the tombs. Now, some people hypothesize that either he went out to the tombs because he didn't want to be around people, or that the people put him out there. Could be either way. I tend to think that they put him out there among the tombs. They just want to get rid of the dude. He's a problem. He's a nuisance. He's woo. So they put him out there. They can't subdue him, so he's breaking chains. He's the naked dude. It even says in Matthew's account of this guy that he was often violent, and people were afraid to go by that way because he was violent. You're talking about a dude who was violent, who had power and strength, and he would break the chains, but still, it doesn't matter how physically strong he was to break chains. There were still chains in his life from a spiritual standpoint that he could not break, that people could not break. They would just throw him out to the tombs. And how many times do we do that? Let's not sit here and be all super spiritual. Let's look at this from a different level. How many times have we known someone who has been in the tombs? Tombs, what are tombs? Death. This man is death. He had no life in him whatsoever. But instead of dealing with people like that, it's easier to just put them out in the tombs. Get away from me. I don't want to deal with that, man. I got my own struggles in my own life. Let's not talk about demoniac for a second. Let's talk about legit people that we know that have problems and we have issues. They may have addictions. They may have depression, and it weighs us down. And we don't want to deal with that. So we just stick them out to the tombs, man. Just leave me alone, man. It's easier for me to go through my life and not deal with your junk. I got my own junk to deal with. What did Jesus do? Jesus went directly to this guy. Jesus had an appointment. It makes sense? He had an appointment. Not only was he to show his disciples that he was the God and the Lord over the darkness, but he was also there with love. And that's, what is your name? What is your name? Personal. Love. I'm telling you, one of the biggest, yes, we have our shield, we have the blood of Christ, we have the word of our testimony, but you want to know what the biggest disarmament of the enemy is? Your love. Because it is so adverse to everything that he is. He's hate, he's violence, he's anger, he's rage. What kills all of that? Love. When you look someone in the eyes and you peer them eyeball to eyeball and you look in their soul and say, I love you. I love you. They know that, I love you. That breaks down every wall that the enemy has. because it's not in and of myself to love people like that. It's Jesus that lives within me. That I can look at someone and say, I love you, and I will do anything for you. Even if it means staying up till 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, I love you. And the problem is people don't hear that. They know that I love them, I don't have to hear it. Plus they're going through their own crap. I don't want to have to deal with that. When someone just wants, someone don't even necessarily want you to even be, they just want someone to listen to them for the first time in their life and just say, you know what? I love you. I'm sorry that you went through some of the stuff that you went through. I'm sorry that you were molested as a child. I'm sorry that you've been beaten. I'm sorry that someone did you wrong. And I love you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. By the way, what is your name? One-on-one level. Love breaks chains. That this man, physically he could break them all day long. He had the strength physically to do it, but he had no strength internally to break the chains that were in his life. It took the King of Kings and Lord of Lords to do that. So let's not just stick people out in the tombs. This message is for us to relate to this man, yes, but this message at the end of the day is a call for this church. It's a call for you. Outside of this church, it's a call for you. Let's keep going with Scripture. He lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, so they just stuck him out there. In death, stick him out there, and we'll shackle you up just to try to keep you under control. But listen to the state of this man, and no one could bind him even with a chain, for he had been bound with shackles and chains, and wrenched the chains apart, and broke the shackles in pieces. No one had the strength to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and on the mountains, he was always crying out. Listen, that showed you the physical state of the man. Now look at the internal state of this man. Night and day among the tombs and in the mountains, he was crying out. You know why he was crying out? He didn't want to be there. He didn't want to be in the tombs. He didn't want to be shackled. Let's not be so spiritual that we don't look at the people behind who don't want to be where they're at. But we just throw them out there in the tombs and say, you know what, deal with it on your own. I don't have time to deal with it. I got enough going on in my own life. So we just throw them out there to death. And we'll even shackle them too. But inside, these people are crying out. This shows the internal struggle that he's going through, the internal and the mental struggle that he's going through, because he is crying out. Please, somebody help me. Somebody, anybody. So I'll continue going back to my chains. That's my addiction. That's my bondage. I know that. My drugs. My alcohol. My medicine. For my depression. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those things, but those are all things that do not fix the issues. We were out there last night and the dude, Chris August or whatever, gave his testimony. The medicine's not going to heal you. The medicine's going to subdue, but the medicine's not going to heal. There's only one person that can heal. Jesus' prescription was not take some medicine. Jesus' prescription is let me take care of your issue. Night and day, he was crying out, and he would cut himself. And y'all know how cutting is a big thing with me. I've never personally went through it, but you do realize that cutting starts in the ages of 13 years old, because if Satan can implant himself in these children at a young age, he's got them. He's got them. Kids cutting themselves. When they realize that Jesus already spilled his blood so you wouldn't have to. Being in a metal band, I've met tons of kids with scars going completely, and what they do, they'll try to hide themselves, so they'll put it on the inside of their thigh, or they'll try to do anything. And we're not just talking about cutting, we're talking about breaking fingers on purpose, or pulling out hair, or burning themselves, anything to cause them pain, from the emotional pain that they're going through. because it's in here. And like this demoniac man, he cuts himself. Because he's crying out. Because nobody hears me. Nobody hears me physically. Nobody hears me mentally. So I'm just going to cry out, I'm just going to cut myself because I deserve to be in pain. I deserve it. No, you don't. Jesus Christ took 39 lashes for everybody in here. So don't take it lightly. Because most kids start at the age of 10 to 13 years old and they're preteen age. And most of the time, I believe the statistic is 85% of them have been sexually molested or raped. So they begin to cut themselves. And I'm just going to be honest with you, it's nothing but a satanic thing. Because the demoniac man cut himself, and we read in 1 Kings, I believe it is, or 2 Kings, where Elijah is going against the prophets of Baal and the prophets of Asherah, and he calls fire down from heaven. What were those people doing? They were calling out to their gods, and they were doing what? Cutting themselves. Blood. Blood. Satan feeds off of your blood if it comes out of anger and frustration and hurt, deep hurt and anguish. He loves that. He loves it. He gets glory out of that. He gets glory that he got you so down and so hurt. Not only did he cause someone to do something wrong inside your mind, you need to go molest that little girl over there. Look at her. Look how beautiful she is. Go over there and get them to do that to you. But not only can he steal that from you, but then he can make you cut yourself. And the whole time while he's sitting back and laughing. And everybody thinks Satan is their friend. He's an evil, evil person. And then guess who we blame? God. Why did you allow that to happen? Pardon my French, but God's damned if he does and damned if he don't. Because he wiped people out in the Old Testament for that. Offering their babies up to the god Molech. And it's the same thing as abortion today. Offering their babies up for fertility and having sex and all this nasty stuff on the altar in front of these gods. Doing these awful things to children. And he wiped people out for that. And he doesn't do that today because we're in the age of grace. He doesn't do that now. People are like, where's your God at now? Okay, so you want to browbeat him back here, but then you want to ask where he's at and how come he's not wiping people out here. There's been some awful things that have happened to people in here. Some awful things, some unspeakable things. Probably not only some physical abuse, mental abuse, sexual abuse. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I don't know what that's like. I don't. And I'm sorry. And there's some deep hurt and there's some deep anguish in here. And you're so bound up by it that you can be delivered. Those chains can be broken today. Cut himself with stones. And when he saw Jesus from afar, what does he do? He goes and runs to Jesus. That was the man. That wasn't the demon. That was the man. He runs to Jesus. There was something different about that man. There's something different about Jesus. Here's the hope and here's the good news. We've seen the physical state of this man. We've seen the mental state of this man. Now, Jesus steps on the scene. And he runs to Jesus. And he falls before him. He falls before the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords because he knows that this man can set me free. Yeah, sure, I'm strong enough. These demons inside me, I can break chains. But that's not what he wanted. He wanted internal chains broken that he couldn't do. People couldn't fix it. Now, ultimately, at the end of the day, I can love you and I can talk to you and I can minister with you, but I can't break your chains. Newsflash, I'm a man. Now, we can be there for one another, and that's what we need to be doing, is not throwing people out to the tombs. We need to be taking them to who? Jesus. Jesus is the only one that can break chains. Jesus is the only one that can stop your crying out and hurt, and he can make your cry out to him saying, God, I need more of you. He can change your crying out. You understand what I'm saying? And no longer is it crying out because of the physical and the mental abuse that you've had to go through. But now you'll be crying out to Him saying, God, I want more to you. He can change your cries. There's nothing wrong with crying. But He can change the mode of your cries. And when he saw Jesus from afar, he fell down before Him. He subjected and lowered himself before Jesus. There's something about lowering yourself before Jesus. When you put yourself out there and say, I can't stop. These drugs, man, I can't stop it, God. I want to. It's always been my go-to. Pornography has always been my go-to, but I can't do this anymore. I can't do it anymore. I've been there. I've been there. When I lost my mom, I went back to something that was easy. She can even tell you. What did I run back to? Alcohol. You didn't want to say it, but it's okay. When I lost my mom, I was crying out. Because me and my mom had been through a lot of rocky things. And I had a great childhood growing up, but in the older as I got, we went through some rocky things. And so when she died, there was a lot of things that were unsaid. And so I was crying out. And I may not have cut myself, but I went to something that made me feel what I would run back to. It was alcohol. And I would get drunk every night, every single night. So much to the point where I had a physical the next day, because this was around the cancer time too. And my liver enzymes were out the roof because, I was just drunk every single night. Because I wanted to run back to something that helped, that I felt helped. But it didn't. Because every morning I woke up and I'm so sorry, God, I'm crying out. It wasn't until I bowed at His feet and said, I can't do this anymore. Then here's where the demon starts talking. Because now the demon's like, oh, this is Jesus. This is the Son of God. And now you're finding, I got to say something. So this is where all that's been the man, I believe. And when he saw Jesus in verse 7, he says, and crying out with a loud voice, he said, what have you to do with me, Jesus, the Son of the Most High God? That's the demon talking. See, we see a switch. That's the demon talking. Whoa, what have you to do? Whoa, Jesus. Because even the demons know who He is. The Son of the Most High God. The demons recognized exactly who He was. And they're like, whoa, this dude's fixing to get clean. What are you doing here, Jesus? They're subjecting to His authority because He is the Son of God. The only people that don't realize that is us. He is the Son of God, the Most High God. We all got lots of gods, whether it's pagans got their gods and Satanists got their God. Atheists, some people ain't got no God, but they've made themselves God because they got a God. It's themselves. They got a God. It's themselves. Or we've got gods like alcohol or things that we lean on. We all got gods in our life. But even the demon said, what have you to do with us, Jesus, the Most High? So His disciples the whole time are still questioning until the end whether He really is the Messiah or not. The demons knew. The demons always have known who He is. Why do you think Jesus had to do these different signs? Why do you think He had to calm the storms? Why do you think He was showing his subjection over and his power and His authority over the demons here? There's proof. To who? His disciples? To me? To you? You don't have to live in this. I am the Son of the Most High God. Even my enemy knows who I am. The enemy here is begging because he knows that he's not staying in. He knows he's not. He knows he has no power or authority over this guy because Jesus has done set his eyes on him and said, "What is your name?" First he says, "I adjure you." Please, what do you... Son of the Most High God, I adjure you by God. These demons are not very intelligent. I adjure you by God. That means I swear to me by God, do not torment me. Like there is no fight here. I mean, do you get it? There's no fight. The enemy is defeated. Even the enemy knows he's defeated. He says, I adjure you, swear by God, please don't torment us. Jesus has all authority and all power. And the enemy knows it. You don't, but the enemy does. I adjure you, please don't torment me before it's time. They already know they're going to be tormented forever and ever and ever. And the demons say, please don't torment me before it's my time. And then Jesus said, I can see Jesus saying, shut up. Come out. That's just Corey's interpretation. We don't see that in Scripture. Shut up. Come out of the man, you unclean spirit. Unclean, because this man is fixing to become what? Clean. By getting what is unclean out. And Jesus asked him, what is your name? He replied, my name is Legion, for we are many. And that man's exactly right. The Roman squad or army, legion, was known as 6,000 men. 6,000. We are legion. This man was eat up with some demons. Eat up. And people are like, what does that mean? This dude could have had a spirit of lust. This dude could have had a spirit of addiction. This dude could have had a spirit of anger, spirit of resentment. A lot of things holding this guy back. Heck, there are some of you who could have a lot of those things within you. Anger, resentment, bitterness, unforgiveness. How can a dude have 6,000? There's 6,000 with a lot of pains and anguishes out there, isn't there? At one time he played Bloody Mary, it was just a joke. I mean, it was just a joke. Or that one time he played with a Ouija board because it was just a joke. It's no big deal. That's a very big deal. And if, say, you get into your kids early to play these little games, which is nothing different than witchcraft, looking into a mirror and calling out to something, that is witchcraft. Talk to any Wiccan or witch. It's not fitting me. Talk to any Wiccan or witch looking into a mirror and calling out to anything. But to kids, it's just child's play. And then wonder why there's so much anger in your house sometimes. Because you're inviting it in. Because that's exactly what you're doing. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. You're calling. You open a door and it's coming. Now, it seems so funny to us. We laugh at that. That's true. That's legit. At one time he played with the Ouija board. It was just a joke. I didn't even mean it, man. I just want to see if it was for real. It was just a joke. No, it's not. Why do you think they sell it in Toys R Us in pretty little colors? Satan wants to wrap everything up in a pretty little package and give it to you. It's pretty, it's okay. No, it's not. That's fine. What if my wife saw me pull out a Playboy right in front of her and just look at it a little bit? It's no big deal. It's just a little Playboy. Get over it. What do you think that is to God? You're messing with something that He's against. It's like adultery to Him. Well, I'd never say that to Jessica. Jessica's just a Playboy. I'm just a Playboy. Get over it. I'm yours. You know that. She doesn't look at it that way. That's why I always try to break things down relational, because that's what God is with us. He's relational. It's not religious. He's relational. So that's why I always try to give you a relational situation, is because He's relational with us. He doesn't want you doing that. He doesn't take it lightly. No, I just went off on that tangent, so hopefully that meant something for someone here. I don't have nothing to do with that. It's free. You don't have to pay for that. I always hate when pastors say that. Now a great herd was legion for we are many, and he begged him earnestly not to send them out of the country. Why? Because demons are very territorial. Very territorial. Why did he not want them to be sent out of that territory? Why did he say that? You have to ask the question. Why did he say that? Why did he say not to send me out of the territory? Because sometimes they're very territorial. They like their territory. That's the way it works. They like their territory. They didn't want to send out of that territory. They didn't want to be sent out of that territory. Made him earnestly not send him out of the country. Now, verse 11. Now a great herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside, and they begged him, saying, send us into the pig, let us enter them. Isn't it funny they want to go into a pig? Because in Jewish culture, what is a pig? It's unclean. So you had unclean spirits asked to be going into something that is what? Unclean. They can't be in something clean. When you are cleansed, they can't be in something that's clean. So it had to go into an unclean animal. And that's the reason why these people were angry here. Then we'll get to that in a minute. That's why these people were angry. Is not only were they sin, we get so caught off by things, and we'll just say, oh, that's, there are things that have been done, I'm just going to be honest with you, there have been things done in the Pentecostal movement or anything like that that have been so wrong. There's been things in Baptists that have been done that have been so wrong. But if we ever see a move of God, we're like these people here, to be honest with you, don't we? Get out of our area. They've seen this dude that's been totally cleansed. This dude is naked, cuts himself, crying out, shackling, breaking chains. You're talking about someone who is violent. They see him clothed and sitting, I'm getting ahead of myself. They see him clothed and sitting in his right mind, and they say, get the heck out of here. Now, there's probably several reasons for that. Jesus just drove 2,000 of their moneymaker in a river, Dead Sea, or Sea of Galilee. That probably had something to do with it. But Jesus was trying to make a point. It's okay. But not only that, but also when we see a move of God, it's just kind of weird because it says they were amazed by this. Because they hadn't seen anything like that. And how many times do we sit in church and God does something and we discount it saying, oh, that person's probably really not healed, or that's really not of God. That's not a move of God. Who are you to put God on some kind? You're talking about God. The God of heaven and earth. The God of everything. See, we always want to try to relatively figure God out and figure this thing out. Who are you? You're a created being trying to figure out a creator? So you want to mock every move of God and wonder why God doesn't move anymore in America? And that's because for so long, the church has just been kind of like booting him out the whole time. Get out of our land. Even if God does try to have a move on God. I told y'all this before. That revival that happened down there in Burlington that went on for 3 flipping months, 4 months, whatever it was. There were Baptists who were offended because a Pentecostal came and just prayed. He wasn't even speaking. He wasn't even preaching. He was just praying. And there were people that were upset because a Pentecostal preacher was up there praying. We've become so ununified. That's why last night was so beautiful to me. Because it was people from different religions. You do understand that man has decided how they want to pick apart the Bible. And they've said, okay, this is a Baptist theology. This is a Methodist one. This is a Pentecostal one. That's not what the original church was, guys. Wasn't. It was unified. A house divided against itself shall what? Fall. And we are divided. Racially, spiritually, we're divided. And that's why we're falling. That's why I keep saying it, 2 Chronicles 7:14, if my people who are called by my name will fall on their face, repent, seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear. Now, I'm not knocking it, but that's the reason why people get so angry at me on Facebook. Trump is not going to fix your problem. Hillary is not going to fix your problem. If you want to vote, fine, vote. But just understand where the problem is fixed. The problem is not fixed by these people. The problem is fixed by the children of God getting on their face before Him, just like the demoniac man who was still filled